Hello, and welcome back to the At-Home Educator podcast. Hello everyone, it is Brittany here, and today we are talking about time management. This is time management both inside the classroom and outside the classroom. So in today's episode, I'm going to share a little bit of background, on my hot mess of a self and kind of my time management, for lack of a better hashtag glow up, right? And give you some tips that have really helped me with my time management inside and outside of the classroom. But before we dive into that, I wanted to start with another story about my teaching this week. So this week was really great for me. I had almost all regulars all week long. I had a few new students here and there, but mostly it was regular students in my morning classes during the week. And I had a regular student, and he had a unit assessment this week. And when we logged on, I couldn't hear him. And then it was kind of like in and out for hearing and for seeing him. So I was like, oh gosh, this is not going to work for a unit assessment. So about 2 minutes into the class, I contacted the fireman for IT issues, and they almost immediately came in and they said they were fixing the issue. Now, fast forward 15 minutes, they've called the parent, they've tried switching the line about 3 times, they've rebooted the classroom, tried the old classroom, tried the new classroom, everything. And finally, the dad, I think, turned off the iPad and restarted the iPad, and then the sound started working. But then halfway through the assessment, the fireman was still in there. I could see them watching, and then the video cut out again. So my student, I could not see him, but I could hear him and he could hear me. So I tried my best to do the assessment, but the fireman never canceled for IT issues. And we didn't even start the assessment until probably like 15 minutes into the class. And I was a little upset because I've heard on Instagram and Facebook that they will do a student IT cancellation. And how am I supposed to do an assessment in 10 minutes, right? So I really just wanted to ask you guys, have you ever had this happen to you before? Have you had serious IT issues, but they won't cancel the class? What did you do? I mean, what is your experience with this? Because honestly, it made me a little bit upset because I feel like that student didn't get what they needed out of the assessment. So I'd love to hear from you guys about what you do in those situations, how you provide feedback to the parent, what you do in terms of do you send a ticket to IT at VIPKid, things like that. I want to hear what you guys have done in the past if this has happened to you, because I'm scared it's going to happen again and I want to have a plan. So if you have experienced that before and you have any advice, then please let me know. Remember, you can let me know through my email, my website, Instagram, or Facebook, and I will link all of those things down below in the description so you can easily find them. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into today's topic, which, like I said before, is time management. Now, I wanted to start by giving you guys a little bit of background on my own time management, just in case some of you are in the same boat that I was in, just to make you feel a little less alone. So, my time management struggle has been a thing really since high school. In high school, I was very, very active in clubs and sports, so I did band and JROTC. I was in a few clubs. And I was actually in college for my last 2 years of high school, taking college classes at the same time I was in high school. So I was very, very busy. And as a 16, 17, 18-year-old, that can be really overwhelming. So honestly, sometimes it would get so overwhelming that I would just cry. I would get home and cry. And obviously that is not very healthy. So once I got to college, I really started trying to buckle down on time management and figure out strategies that have worked for me. So for the past few years, this is really something that I've been working on, and introducing a baby into that has, kind of disrupted the flow a little bit. But now that she is almost 9 months old and I've been doing this for almost 9 months, I feel like I've kind of gotten a little bit back into the flow of things and figured out, a better time management method, especially with a baby. So if you ever feel overwhelmed, or if you're a new mom and you're wondering, oh my goodness, how am I going to manage this crazy baby who has a crazy sleep schedule and wants to eat and play and crawl and be crazy all the time with working for VIPKid, then stick around, because have I got the tips for you. So especially with working from home, time management is super, super important. I'm sure that if you have friends or family, or maybe even a professor or a teacher who has ever worked from home, and you asked advice from them, they've probably told you that it is very hard to work from home because it's hard to separate your work life from your home life. And that is where time management comes in really handy, because if you manage your time well inside of the classroom and manage your time well outside of the classroom, you are going to much more easily be able to separate that work life and home life. So, without further ado, let's start with our time management outside of the classroom. As most of you know, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I have my little almost 9-month-old baby girl, and her and I hang out all day long. I like to call myself a domestic engineer. I'm a full-time domestic engineer. It makes it sound a little fancier. So most of my day is spent at home. Now, if you have a second job, then your time management strategies might be a little different, and I'd love to hear about them. So if you have some time management strategies to share, please make sure to either email me so I can share them, or share them on the website, on Instagram, something like that. But for me personally, this is what works for me as a stay-at-home mom. And of course, some of these are transferable to if you have a job outside of the home that you're working as well as with VIPKid. So my first tip for you is to make to-do lists. Now, I know that this seems a little cliche. You go on Pinterest, you see all these fancy schmancy to-do lists, and you're like, ugh, these women or these girls probably make these to-do lists and they look so nice and they probably never follow them. But I'm telling you, it is true. Like, to-do lists are life-changing. So I always thought they were a waste of time, and recently this is something that I've really started doing. In the beginning of the day, after I finish teaching in the morning, I will sit down while I'm drinking my coffee and I will write just a small to-do list. It doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to be on your computer, it can be on a scrap piece of paper, it can be in a random notebook, whatever you have laying around. Just jot down the things that you want to get done that day. And as you do them, I would cross them off or check them off, draw stars on them, whatever you want to do, and I promise you, it will keep you focused. So instead of, after you lay your baby down to take her nap, you sitting on the couch and scrolling through Instagram for 3 hours, and then when your baby wakes up, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't get anything done. When you lay your baby down, you can now look at your to-do list, and you can see what you need to get done before you give yourself those 3 hours on the couch scrolling through Instagram. So, to-do lists are totally worth it. And also, if you don't finish your to-do list, it's not a big deal. You can just add it to your to-do list tomorrow. Now, of course, the goal is to finish it, but if there's something on there that you don't get done, it's not a big deal. Write it in pencil so you can erase it and make yourself feel better. But to-do lists have been a huge lifesaver for me for time management outside of the classroom. It really keeps me focused on what I need to get done that day, especially now that I have things like a podcast to keep up with and an Instagram to post on and things like that. So I highly recommend to-do lists. My second tip for time management outside of the classroom is to keep a schedule. Now, this could apply to you if you have a baby or if you don't have a baby. For me, specifically, I'm going to talk about how it applies to having a baby. So, as a new mom, I was kind of lost on how to manage my baby's time. Like, you have this baby now, what do they do all day, right? So, my husband and I read this great book called Baby Wise before our baby was born. And if you have not read it, I highly recommend it. I will leave a link to the book on Amazon in the description so you can check it out if you're interested. But Baby Wise was a life changer when it came to time management. So they talk about, it's not necessarily a schedule, but it's a routine. And it basically makes it so that your baby's behavior is a little more predictable. Now, of course, babies are not always predictable, so there will be days when your baby wakes up at 5 in the morning and they're not supposed to wake up until 8. But for the most part, it has helped tremendously. So since our baby was born, her name is Bryn. Since she was born, we have had her on this routine, and it's called eat, wake, sleep cycles. So what it is when they wake up, they eat. And then they have wake time, so they play, they crawl around, whatever they need to do, and then they go to sleep again. As they get older, the cycles change, they get longer. When they're younger, they're shorter, things like that. But for the most part, you can rely on the fact that about when your baby's first born, about every 2 hours, they're going to be eating and then sleeping. And now that my baby's like 9 months old, she has about a 5-hour span for her eat, wake, sleep cycle. And it really helps with predictability, which is a huge factor in time management, especially when you have a baby. Because if you have no idea when your baby's going to lay down, you can't schedule things, you can't plan to get things done in that time. If you have no idea when your baby's going to be awake, you can't go do things. You can't, go meet with your friends. You can't have scheduled time to sit on the couch and scroll through Instagram, whatever floats your boat. So having a schedule really helps. Now, if you don't have a baby, then this helps too. So if you have a schedule every day, you will know when you need to get things done, especially if you work from home and you don't have a second job, or you maybe have a second job but you don't do it on some days, so you're home all day on some days. It helps to have a schedule because then you can get important things done on those days when you're home. So maybe you work for VIPKid in the mornings and then you go to an actual brick and mortar job like 3 days a week. So you go Monday, Wednesday, Friday. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, you have a schedule to keep. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you get up, you teach. Then after you teach, you do prep for the rest of the week for your classes. Or maybe you meal prep so that you have meals to eat and you are healthy, right? Or maybe you take your dog on a walk and you're on a schedule. It will make you feel so much more accomplished if you're on a schedule and you get those things done every day. It helps with sleep as well for adults. So I know that a lot of us with VIPKid get up very early in the morning. If you have a schedule that you keep yourself on, you are going to want to go to sleep at the same time every day. And that will help you feel more rested and more happy for your students on VIPKid. So it's very helpful. So that's tip number 2, keeping a schedule. I would definitely recommend doing that. So tip number 3 for time management outside of the classroom is to set goals. Now, this is something that I've also just recently started doing, and it has also been really, really helpful. It is something that I also saw on Pinterest, people setting goals, and I was like, if I did that, I would never, ever achieve them because I would just make it on a pretty piece of paper and then forget about it, right? But I'm telling you, if you do this, you will see a change in your time management because those to-do lists, those schedules will become more oriented towards your goals. Now, when you make goals, you need to remember to make them achievable. So if you're new with VIPKid, don't make your goal to teach 1,000 classes in your first month because I'm sorry, but it's not going to happen. Or maybe if you have just gotten into working out. Don't make your goal to run 100 miles in the first month that you're working out, because you won't achieve that and then it will be discouraging. You have to set achievable goals. So what I would recommend is sitting down at the beginning of every month and getting, again, a piece of paper, a scrap paper you can fold up and put in your purse. You can do it on a computer. You can make it pretty if you want to, but you don't have to. So you sit down at the beginning of the month and you think, what do I want to get done this month? What is important to me? Then you write them down, and throughout the month you can change your schedule, change your to-do lists in order to be more oriented towards the goals that you want to meet. So for example, this was my my goals for the month of March. It is the 19th of March as I'm filming this, so the month isn't completely over, but these are the goals so far this month that I have reached or almost reached. So this month I set out to teach at least 100 classes on VIPKid. It looks like I'm going to hit that. I have 66 done already, and then I have 30 classes booked for the rest of the month, and that is not completely booked. And I feel like that it will get completely booked. So I'm pretty sure that I'll hit my goal of 100. So I'm very excited about that. It's my first month teaching 100 classes. So woot woot, little party for teacher Brittany. My second goal was to drink 4 bottles of water a day. This may sound like a dumb goal, but I am still breastfeeding my little one, and it is very, very dry where I live. So it's hard to stay hydrated and, still produce enough milk for her. So I have to keep drinking so much water. So 4 bottles a day. I think my average right now is like 3. And it's really hard to keep track of just because I've been so busy during the day. So that one, I think I will probably have to put on my goals for the next month as well. Another goal of mine was to get my TESOL certificates from VIPKid. And little side note here, guys, you should definitely go for the TESOL certificates. I literally got both the beginner and the advanced TESOL certificates done in probably an hour one morning. I know people say that it takes a long time to get, but honestly, if you have experience already teaching ESL students, or some kind of background with developmental theories and cognitive theories, it's super easy. I say just go in and give it your best shot on the quizzes, and if you already have experience, you'll probably get a majority of the answers correct, and you don't even need to do all of the academic stuff that they have beforehand. So definitely do that. It makes you look better for the parents, obviously, because you have a teaching certificate that specifically has to do with English as a second language, and it pops up on your profile when they see it. So do that. It was super quick and easy. But like I said, my goal was to get my TESOL certificates done, and I have done that. So that one is checked off. So far, March is looking pretty good for me. I hope it's looking good for you too if you already had goals set. But my setting goals itself really helped me this month, I think. I feel a lot more accomplished. I feel like my days have been a lot more focused, and I feel like I've been able to get a lot more done. So I would highly recommend setting those goals at the beginning of the month. So now that we have gone ahead and talked about time management outside of the classroom, so how to be successful, when you're not teaching, and how to separate that non-teaching time from your teaching time, I think it would be good to talk about how to have better time management inside of the classroom, because let's face it, we love teaching, we are VIPKid teachers, but we don't want to be thinking about it all day long, right? You want to have adult time or family time or mom time or dad time, right? So let's talk about some time management strategies inside of the VIPKid classroom. Now, just as a background, if you didn't know, VIPKid classes are 25 to 28 minutes long. That is the target time. But it is easy to go over time with these students, especially if you're like me and you teach higher level students who love to talk to you. And it's wonderful talking to them, but when you have back-to-back classes, you really have to go for that 25 to 28 minute time period. So in order to keep that 25 to 28 minute period, there are 3 strategies that I have for you. So the first one is to look at the slides before the classes and map out your slides into sections. So create kind of like an outline. This way, if your student is going very slow, so if they are a student who needs a little more time answering questions and doing activities, you can kind of like fast forward through the slides that you know are not as important. All of them are important, but maybe some of like the extra practice slides you could go through and you don't have to actually like go into depth in the activities on them. Or if your student is zooming through it, you know if you have time to extend. So if you have time to ask them an extra question or talk to them about an experience they've had with that subject, things like that. There are a lot of different ways that you can do this kind of mapping out of your lesson. A lot of people use sticky notes, index cards, a notebook, whatever works for you. Personally, I use what I call my cheat sheet. So I have made like a document that I printed out. It's double-sided, so I have room for 7 classes on it, and I laminated it double-sided so that then I can write on it with wet erase markers, the vis-a-vis markers that, you know, when you were in like middle school and we had the old school projectors, not like the new fancy ones that they have now that are digital, and your teacher would write on those plastic sheets. They would use vis-a-vis markers. So I use those to write on my cheat sheet, and I have a section for the student name, the class time, the unit description, so if it's a major course, what level it's on, what unit, what number lesson in that unit, the subject, the prop I'm going to use, the reward I'm going to use, and then a little notes section. And in that notes section, I write my outline. And while I'm teaching, I have that right next to me so I can reference it if I need it. Good news, if you want to try out this cheat sheet, I have it in my Teachers Pay Teachers store, and it is free. So you can download it, you can print it and write on it with pen or pencil, or you can print it and laminate it and reuse it like I do. But I would love for you to try it out and let me know how it works for you. So if you want that, I will leave the link for the Teachers Pay Teachers store in my description so you can check it out and download it. Remember, it's free, so give it a try and let me know what you think. So whether you're using my cheat sheet or your own thing, your note card, your sticky note, anything like that, it's important to have that outline because it really helps you out. There have been multiple times where I am at, the 22-minute mark, and I'm like, oh no, we're approaching 25 to 28 minutes. Am I going to get this done? And if I didn't have my little cheat sheet next to me, I wouldn't know what kind of content we need to get through before it's the end. Now, like this morning, we were on slide 22 of 29, but I had my cheat sheet next to me, and I had written on there that slide 24 was a final project slide, which is super quick and easy. So I knew that we were going to get through the lesson with plenty of time to spare. So I was able to plan based on that. And I'm sure you've run into situations like that too if you're already teaching with VIPKid. So being organized and having an outline will really help you manage that time inside of the classroom better. Now, my second tip for you inside of the classroom to stay within that, 25 to 28 minute mark. And this might be a controversial one, but my second tip is don't be afraid to skip your secondary reward. For those of you who don't know, with VIPKid, you are supposed to have 2 rewards in the classroom. There is a built-in reward, which is a star system. So as the student does well in the class, you give them stars, and those are in the classroom format that they already provide for you within the classes. But they want you to have a secondary reward for the student, because a big part of ESL teaching, as we've talked about before, is rewarding often in order to encourage those students to take risks and keep trying and learn new things. So a lot of people use a secondary reward system, like, I don't know, one of my favorites is an ice cream cone. So when a student does well, if I don't want to give them a star, I can give them a scoop of ice cream on their ice cream cone and they get to pick a flavor, and I just magnetically attach it to my whiteboard. But honestly, sometimes the secondary reward can set you back in time. And especially if your reward doesn't have anything to do with the content of the lesson, there is no problem with abandoning it. So say I gave my student 2 scoops of ice cream and they just started really struggling with one part of the lesson. So now we're at 22 minutes out of the 25 minutes that we have, and we have 15 slides to go. I'm just going to stop with the ice cream because I have to ask them, what flavor do you want? That takes extra time. I will just give them the stars and forget about the ice cream. So I have never had a parent who's gotten angry at me for it. I've never gotten any negative feedback about it. The student has never said anything negative about it, and there's nothing wrong with it. I promise you that VIPKid and the students' parents will be happier that you were able to get through the lesson content rather than you giving a student a fake ice cream cone or something like that. So that is my advice. Do not be afraid to skip out on the secondary reward if you start running out of time. So the third way that I recommend you manage your time in the classroom is to know when to stop. And part of this kind of just comes with experience, but also as a newbie with VIPKid, you have to be confident enough in yourself to know when to stop in a lesson. I will tell you right now, you will not get through all the slides in every single lesson that you teach. If you have, then props to you, you're a wonderful teacher, but it doesn't happen to me every single lesson, and that's okay. I've never gotten any negative feedback about it. Nobody's ever said anything about it. And it helps keep me on time for my other classes, which I'm sure that the other parents and students appreciate. So sometimes students will want to talk to you. They'll want to take their iPad and run around their house and be like, look at my dog, look at my art on my wall, look at my room, I have a dino stuffed animal, right? And maybe it's 28 minutes. You have to politely say, okay, Johnny, that's wonderful. I have to go now. Thank you for showing me. I hope I see you soon. Bye. And just exit out of that classroom as quick as you can, because it is so much more important that you get into the next class on time for that second student than it is for you to see Johnny's dino doll. Just don't be rude about it. Don't be like, all right, kid, I gotta go. Stop showing me your crap. Bye. Right? Kind of common sense. Don't say that. Be very polite and let them know that you have to go, and then they will be understanding. Sometimes a student is going to be late to class, and if they are late, they know it. So if you can't get through the whole lesson, it's not a big deal. What I do is I find a stopping point using that outline that we talked about, and I will type in the slide number that's the end early and click enter. It takes you directly to the goodbye slide, and I say, I'm so sorry, that's all we have time for today. It was so nice to see you. I'll see you again soon. Bye. And then click out of the classroom, right? You have to know when is enough. And it's not your fault that that student was late. Now, if you're late, you might get some negative feedback about ending the lesson early, but we're not going to be late, right? Yes. So if a student is late, you just have to let them know we're out of time. I'm so sorry. As long as you're polite to them, as long as you're not, being rude in any way, being like, I gotta go, I don't have time, or freaking out, don't freak out. Everything will be all right. If you think about it, if you were to try and rush through the slides that you have left, you would probably confuse your student. They wouldn't be learning anything anymore. They might get discouraged because they're like, oh, I have no idea what's going on, and my teacher is just clicking so fast, I don't know. So they might stop responding, or they might not want to rebook with you. And it's better to end the class early than to be late to your next class. So definitely know when to stop. That's a big time management thing that you need to learn. And like I said, this comes with experience, but also as a newbie, you just have to be confident in how you feel and when you think the class needs to stop. So if you're at the 26-minute mark and your student came in 5 minutes late and you're only on slide 10 out of 30, which I don't think that would happen, but if you were, all you have to do is let them know, I'm so sorry, we're out of time. I will see you next time. Goodbye. And you can write that in the parent feedback as well. Like, I was so sad that Johnny came late to class today. I would love to teach him the whole lesson. Please make sure he's on time next time, right? Always be polite. You don't ever want to come off as being rude, because there are lots of other teachers out there, and the parent might, book with somebody else because that person wasn't rude to them. So always be as nice as you can, but politely let them know that you didn't have time, and you won't cause any issues. So don't freak out if you can't get through all the slides. All right, guys. Well, that is it. That is all of my tips for managing your time inside of the classroom and outside of the classroom. I would love to hear if you guys try any of these strategies out and if they help you. So please make sure to let me know what you try and let me know how it goes through either my email, my Instagram, or my website. Remember, those will all be linked below. And if you have any strategies that you use yourself that have helped you a lot with time management, please let everybody know. You can tell me, or you can post on the forum on the website and let everybody know, and it would be great. So I'm excited to hear from you guys. Remember, if this job was easy, everyone would do it, and they aren't. So it must not be that easy. Your trials and tribulations are validated, and hopefully these time management tips help you manage those trials and tribulations that you experience inside the classroom and outside the classroom. Cut yourself some slack if you get overwhelmed. Do what's best for you. Try out some of these tips and see how it goes. It's better than getting frustrated and crying like 17-year-old Brittany did, right? So thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you all are having a wonderful week. Remember, teach regularly, play often, and live life to the fullest. I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye.